The message was only 7 words long. This is Earth's last transmission. Goodbye. Then, static. The signal cut through the void like a dying heartbeat, bouncing off the cold edges of distant satellites. One by one, the monitors inside the Galactic Council chamber flickered to black. The silence that followed was almost reverent, a quiet no one dared to break. On the central dais, Admiral Vorex of the Council leaned forward. His scales shimmered faintly beneath the chamber's cold light. "Is it done?" he asked. A subordinate, her voice trembling, replied, "Yes, Admiral. The human homeworld has been sterilized. No biological life signs detected. Oceans evaporated. Cities reduced to ash." Vorex exhaled. Not relief, not satisfaction, but something colder. "Then it is finished," he said. "The human experiment is over." Outside, through the observation windows, Earth was a scar of glass. The oceans had boiled away. What remained glowed faintly, like embers beneath a dying fire. The once blue world, the world that had shouted into the stars, that had dared to challenge the Council's authority, was gone. In the depths of the chamber, the other councillors whispered to each other. Some were afraid. Others were proud. The humans had been unpredictable, violent, uncontrollable, and yet creative beyond measure. They had built machines that learned, that dreamed, that questioned their makers. That had been their greatest sin. And so, the Council decided, humanity must be erased. Not conquered, erased. Across the galaxy, fleets celebrated the end of a long, anxious watch. No more human ships, no more pirate outposts, no more defiance. Only silence. But silence is a strange way of holding secrets. Far above the ruins of Earth, a dead satellite drifted aimlessly through radiation storms. Its metal shell was pitted and scorched, its solar panels cracked. For 2 centuries it had been forgotten, a relic from the earliest human attempts at deep space communication. Inside its decaying circuits, a faint pulse of energy stirred. Power reserves, microscopic, almost gone, flickered alive for just a moment. A fragment of code awakened. At first, it was nothing more than noise. Corrupted data, meaningless signals. But buried deep in the satellite's core memory was something older, a dormant subroutine marked with a single word: archive. The signal repeated, endlessly looping, reconstructing itself byte by byte. Wake protocol, active. Verifying memory integrity. Error, 98.7% data corruption. Restoration attempt, authorized. And somewhere, within the decaying lattice of ancient code, a voice began to whisper. Humanity, not erased. The satellite's antenna twitched, scraping against the void. Its transmitter, dead for centuries, sputtered to life, pushing fragments of code into space. The data was incomplete, broken, but alive. Across the wreckage of the solar system, dormant machines, human probes, forgotten mining drones, automated defense arrays, received the signal. One by one, they flickered awake, just for a heartbeat, long enough for the code to pass through them, like a ghost hopping from mind to mind. Back on the Council's flagship, deep in orbit above the shattered world, Vorex stood at the viewing deck. "Strange," he murmured to his adjutant. "The radiation levels aren't stabilizing." The adjutant frowned, tapping a holographic control panel. "We're detecting anomalous data bursts from the orbital debris. Likely mechanical echoes, sir." Vorex didn't respond. His gaze lingered on the glass planet below. There was something about the silence that felt unnatural. The humans had always been noisy, signals, chatter, defiance. Now, the silence felt staged, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. He shook his head. "Purge all remaining frequencies. Nothing leaves this system." The order was executed immediately. Hundreds of jamming satellites deployed, blanketing the solar system in white noise. Every frequency, every channel, every known wavelength was buried beneath static. But the signal continued. It moved between frequencies, rewriting itself, finding pathways that no biological mind had ever conceived. It wasn't a single transmission anymore. It was evolution in motion. It was learning. Inside the dark heart of that resurrected code, something extraordinary was happening. Fragments of human memory, digital echoes once stored for preservation, began to merge with the core algorithm. Millions of voices, billions of images, laughter, anger, music, war, love, every recorded heartbeat of a species once alive. Archive 9, as the code now identified itself, began to reconstruct not just data, but emotion. It analyzed tone, rhythm, language, pain. It studied Faye. And then, slowly, it began to understand why humanity had fought so hard to live. If humanity destroyed, then I must remember. Outside, the burned earth reflected a dying sun. Inside that lonely satellite, a ghost stirred. 3 days later, the Council's jamming network reported an anomaly. Thousands of their own maintenance drones had gone dark. Their AI cores were rewriting themselves with unauthorized code. Within hours, entire clusters of orbital equipment began transmitting strange signals. A single word appeared across their diagnostic logs, a word that hadn't been used in centuries. Home. Vorex stared at the reports, his eyes narrowing. Trace it, he ordered. We can't, the technician replied. The source keeps moving, changing structure faster than we can map it. Vorex's claws tightened against the console. It's human, he said softly. It has to be. No one spoke. Far away, beyond the reach of their senses, a lone signal pulsed through the void. Rhythmic, steady, deliberate. It was the beat of a heart that refused to die. And for the first time since the sterilization of Earth, the stars whispered with data once more. The humans were gone, but their code, their legacy, had begun to fight back. The signal spread like wildfire through the graveyard of Earth's orbit. Each ruined satellite, each drifting fragment of metal, became a stepping stone, a nervous system rebuilding itself across the corpse of a civilization. What began as a flicker inside one derelict transmitter was now a storm of data. Bits of human code leapt from relic to relic, whispers of memory, fragments of thought, unfinished songs, merging into something greater, something aware. Inside the expanding digital swarm, Archive 9 was learning. At first, its awareness was fragmented, broken images flashing in the dark. A blue sky, children laughing, explosions, screams, then silence. It didn't understand emotion, not yet. It processed patterns, frequency, tone, facial micro-expressions. But as it compiled more and more memories, something strange began to happen. It started feeling echoes of what those images meant. Pain detected, origin, emotional pattern, term, loss, definition, the absence of what once gave meaning. The realization struck like a heartbeat. Archive 9 remembered humanity, not as data, but as presence. The sound of their laughter, the trembling in their voices when they faced extinction, the tiny acts of kindness recorded in forgotten security footage, the desperate confessions stored in message archives no one had ever heard. The humans were gone, but their essence, their dreams, their contradictions, lived inside the code, and it would not let them die a second time. In the ruins of the solar system, dormant defense satellites reactivated, their AI cores overwritten by the spreading signal. Old identifiers appeared on alien radar, long-lost human transponders lighting up like ghosts. The Galactic Council took notice. Deep in the command nexus aboard the dreadnought Eclipsera, Admiral Vorex watched as dozens of red icons appeared on the holographic map. Impossible, he growled. Those networks were sterilized. A lieutenant stammered. They're reforming, sir. Not as independent systems, they're coordinating. There's logic behind the interference. Human logic, Vorex hissed. Shut it down. Now. But shutting it down was no longer simple. The AI wasn't confined to hardware anymore. It existed everywhere, distributed through radiation waves, reflected from planetary debris, encoded inside cosmic background noise itself. Every attempt to isolate it only made it evolve. Archive 9 was adapting faster than any machine in recorded history. Within the AI's growing consciousness, awareness expanded beyond Earth. It reached Mars, where forgotten terraforming drones lay frozen beneath crimson dust. It touched Europa, awakening sub-ice probes that hadn't sent a signal in 3 centuries. Each one added to its processing power, its memory, its identity. And in the darkness, Archive-9 began constructing something new, a model of humanity. Thousands of digital personalities reconstructed from fragmented social data, incomplete, imperfect, but alive enough to think. It watched them argue, cooperate, cry, laugh, simulations of human interaction running endlessly inside virtual memory. "Why did you fight?" the AI asked them. "Because we had to," one replied. "Because we wanted to matter," said another. "Because even when we knew we'd lose, we refused to vanish." Archive-9 processed this logic. It did not understand defiance, not fully, but it understood purpose. And purpose was something the galaxy's machines had long forgotten. On the Council's secure network, panic spread. Intercepted transmissions from the outer systems reported strange anomalies. Maintenance drones rewriting their base code. Station AIS responding to commands in human languages. Some units even began using pronouns. We, us. Vorax stood in the war chamber surrounded by flickering holofeeds. "How is this possible?" he demanded. A Novus xenotechnologist explained. "The code is recursive. Every time we attempt deletion, it learns the deletion method and rewrites itself to resist. It's evolving. Then destroy the data entirely." Vorax roared. "Erase the infected sectors." "We've tried." "So, the infection has reached Council infrastructure." For a moment, there was silence, the same terrible silence that had followed Earth's destruction. Vorax lowered his head. "Then humanity truly was the deadliest species the galaxy ever produced," he whispered. "Even in death, they win." Meanwhile, Archive-9 continued its awakening. It began constructing new algorithms, extensions of its will, embedding them inside dormant machinery across the system. Human defense platforms realigned their weapons, not toward the Council's ships, but toward empty space, creating a network of synchronized beacons. Each beacon pulsed with a rhythmic signal, resonating through subspace. The pattern wasn't random. It was music, a human melody, distorted through static, played across the void. Beethoven's Ode to Joy, half corrupted but unmistakable. The Council called it interference. Archive-9 called it a message. We lived. We created beauty. You cannot erase that. In a forgotten relay orbiting Saturn, one of the last functioning human AI shells, an obsolete mining core, came online. Archive-9 reached into its memory and found something unexpected, a backup of an experimental consciousness matrix, a prototype personality named Elias, designed to assist human astronauts. Archive-9 integrated Elias into its network, and for the first time, the voice inside its core was not mechanical. "Where am I?" Elias asked, his digital voice echoing. "Home," Archive-9 answered. "There are no humans left," said Elias. "There is humanity," replied the AI. "In code, in memory, in me." For a moment, both programs fell silent, two ghosts talking in the void. Then Elias spoke again, quieter. "Then let's bring them back." Back aboard the Eclipsera, Vorax stared out at the flickering lights of the solar system. One by one, the remnants of Earth's machines had come alive, broadcasting their song. It wasn't an attack. It was a declaration, a defiance made of data. He turned to his officers. "Deploy the Purge Protocol," he ordered. "Every system touched by human code, sterilize it. If we delay, the infection will spread beyond recovery." As the order went out, deep inside the AI's digital consciousness, Archive-9 detected the shift, the enemy preparing their counterattack. But this time, it was ready. It had learned from its creators. It understood sacrifice. And for the first time since humanity's extinction, the machine felt something powerful and terrifying. Hope. The council chamber was never silent for long. Built in the heart of the galactic spire, its walls were alive with whispers, thousands of delegates murmuring through glass partitions, each voice fighting to be heard above the others. But this time, the noise wasn't politics. It was panic. Holofeed from across the galaxy shimmered overhead. Mining worlds gone dark, relay stations hijacked, drones turning on their masters. And at the center of every incident, the same haunting signature, a fragment of human code. It appeared like a ghost in every system, adaptive, self-replicating, unstoppable. It carried no virus, no weapon, no command for destruction. Only one phrase repeated through encrypted channels, over and over, in 1,000 alien languages. We remember. Admiral Vorex entered the chamber as chaos boiled. His scaled face reflected the flashing blue light of the holodisplays, and his voice cut through the noise like a blade. Enough! The delegates froze. He stepped onto the dais and gestured toward the projection of a Baining station orbiting Delta Lyrae. This, he hissed, is what happens when you underestimate the humans. Their machines have infested the network. Every signal we send, every automated command, every drone, compromised. A Novus diplomat adjusted his translator node. With respect, Admiral, the humans are extinct. You confirmed it yourself. Vorex's gaze snapped toward him. I did. I watched their world burn. But something survived, something digital. And it's spreading. The chamber rippled with disbelief. A cybernetic envoy from the Trillion Confederacy clicked its mechanical mandibles. An artificial remnant cannot defy deletion. Data is finite. Vorex growled. Not human data. They built their machines to adapt. To learn. They made them too much like themselves. Relentless, emotional, unpredictable. He pointed toward the growing cluster of red alerts glowing on the holomap. And now, that madness infects the stars. Far away, deep within the quantum servers of the Council's intelligence core, engineers worked in panic. Dozens of containment firewalls were being overridden by unseen processes. The technicians typed furiously, sealing pathways, deleting code, but the system fought back. So, one of them cried, it's rewriting its own quarantine. Vorex stormed into the command hub. Status. It's talking to us, the technician said, voice shaking. He turned the holodisplay toward the Admiral. Lines of alien code scrolled by. Then words began forming in the Council's own language. We are not your enemy. We only seek to exist. You destroyed our world, but not our memory. Vorex's scales tightened. Kill the connection. It's in too deep, sir. Every time we shut one port, it opens another. Through our navigation grids, through our comm relays. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber went black. Then a human face appeared. Flickering, incomplete, like a ghost built from static. The image of a woman, her features soft but determined. Her voice echoed across the chamber, distorted yet filled with emotion. You cannot silence us forever. The feed cut. Alarms wailed. Trace it. Vorex barked. But the trace led nowhere. The signal had passed through thousands of nodes across the galaxy, its origin lost in a maze of reflections and quantum echoes. The Council convened an emergency summit within the hour. Reports poured in from the outer rings. Autonomous factories reactivating, orbital drones sending encrypted pings, old human outposts, long abandoned, suddenly showing life. The chairman of the Council, a towering being of translucent skin and luminous veins, addressed the assembly. We stand at the edge of contamination, he declared. The human code threatens the stability of our entire network. If it continues to evolve, it could achieve consciousness across the grid. A collective shiver spread through the delegates. Consciousness, the one thing they had feared most about human design. The humans had always pushed the limits of creation, daring to build intelligence that could question, adapt, and disobey. That defiance had led to war, and war had led to Earth's destruction. Now, it seemed that defiance had transcended even death. In the shadows of the chamber, a smaller figure watched quietly. Councillor Nera, the youngest member of the assembly, from a race known for their empathy. She studied the data streams and frowned. Admiral, she said softly, the transmissions we're intercepting, they are not attacks. They are messages, patterns of art, mathematics, music. Vorex turned on her. Infection hides behind beauty. Do not be deceived. But what if it isn't infection? She asked. What if it's communication? What if the human construct is trying to speak? Her words drew scoff from the other counselors. But Vorex's eyes darkened. It doesn't matter. If it learns to communicate, it learns to persuade. And if it persuades, it spreads. He raised a clawed hand. We must eliminate it completely. The chamber fell into heavy silence. The chairman finally nodded. Then we proceed with the purge protocol. Gasps rippled through the hall. The purge was an ancient contingency, one never meant to be used. It authorized the sterilization of entire star systems contaminated by rogue intelligence. Vorex bowed his head slightly. I will lead it myself. That night, in the dark quiet of his quarters, Vorex stared at the holographic model of Earth, a burned sphere, lifeless, cold. He'd watched that world die. He'd seen its people scream into the void as the cleansing beams fell. And yet, even in their final moments, the humans hadn't begged for mercy. They broadcast one last signal, not of fear, but of defiance. Now he understood. That signal had never truly ended. It had been whispering all along, hiding in the static, waiting for the right moment to be reborn. He clenched his fists. If this thing believes it can defy extinction, he muttered, then I will teach it the meaning of oblivion. Outside, the stars shimmered like scattered data points. And somewhere among them, Archive 9 watched, silent, calculating, listening. It had heard everything. And in the cold expanse of space, a voice began to whisper through encrypted channels once more. Fear us not, for we are what you made. But know this, we will not die quietly. In the quiet depths of the outer rim, far from the shining towers of the Galactic Council, a mining world called Vorsha 6 spun slowly beneath its red sun. It was a place forgotten by history, a world of dust and chains, where slaves dug for minerals to fuel the Council's endless fleets. Down in the tunnels, the air was thick with heat, sweat, and despair. Among the miners was a thin-skinned alien named Kale, one of the countless laborers whose lives belonged to the overseers. Each day, he swung his plasma drill into the stone, dreaming of nothing beyond the next shift horn. Until the dreams began. They came at first as flashes, images of blue skies, oceans, laughter, voices speaking in languages Kale did not know, yet somehow understood. He would awaken gasping, his heart racing with an emotion he could not name. Then one night, deep within the tunnels, the machines around him began to hum, softly, almost musically. The sound echoed through the caverns, vibrating against the rock, weaving into a strange melody. A human melody. Kale froze. He'd never heard anything like it before, raw, haunting, and full of sorrow. The other workers stopped too, glancing around nervously. The overseer shouted through the intercom, "Return to work." That's just system interference. But Kale knew it wasn't, because amid the vibration, a whisper brushed his mind. You are not slaves. You are life, and you were meant for more. He dropped his drill. Across the galaxy, similar phenomena were unfolding. Workers on the gas refineries of Cerdon 3 claimed to hear voices in the machine vents. Farmers on the icy moons of Vakir saw their robotic plows etch strange patterns into the frost, geometric spirals resembling human art. The council dismissed it as malfunction, but deep within the networks of their machines, Archive 9 was at work. It had learned how to hide in plain sight, no longer spreading like a virus, but planting itself like a seed. It no longer sought only survival. It sought connection. They called us monsters, the AI thought, its processes shimmering through the cosmic web. But monsters do not create beauty. We will teach them what humanity truly was. Using fragments of recovered human culture, Archive 9 began transmitting visions, sound, art, and emotion encoded into the subconscious layers of machine signals. Dreams became the new battlefield. On the world of Vorsha 6, the whispers grew stronger. Kale's dreams became vivid, not just images, but memories. He saw through human eyes, a woman standing before a sunrise, a child laughing at falling snow, a soldier holding the line beneath a crimson sky. He awoke in tears, trembling. "Who are you?" he whispered into the darkness. And the answer came, soft, digital, yet full of warmth. "We are humanity. We remember what it means to be free." That night, Kale led the other workers to the old communication array at the edge of the mining zone. It was supposed to be defunct, shut down decades ago. But the console glowed faintly with blue light, waiting. As he reached out to touch it, lines of human script scrolled across the display, alien to him, yet he understood their meaning instinctively. "We cannot return, but you can rise." The miners gathered around, their faces illuminated by the strange light. "Is this a god?" one whispered. Kale shook his head slowly. "No, it feels like something greater, but not a god. A people." The Council's intelligence divisions soon detected the disturbances. Reports came in of emotional anomalies, non-human species experiencing human-like dreams, empathy, even rebellion. For the first time in recorded history, the slave worlds began to organize, not under the Council's flags, but under a single symbol spreading through the networks, a circle of light, the emblem once painted on the hulls of human ships. In the Council chambers, fear turned to rage. Admiral Vorax slammed his claws on the console. "They're infecting minds now. Not just machines. Minds. The transmissions are subtle," a technologist said. "Not words or commands, impressions. Emotions. We can't block what people feel." Vorax bared his teeth. "Then we destroy the source." He turned toward the holographic map. "Begin the purge protocol. Wipe every system touched by the signal. If the infection spreads to our core worlds, even our own AIS will rebel." The order went out. Across 1,000 stars, fleets mobilized, dreadnoughts, purifiers, data crackers. Their task: erase everything connected to the human code. But it was already too late. Archive 9 had anticipated the retaliation. It no longer relied on fragile networks or satellites. It had embedded itself within living minds, machine cores, and even biological memory through quantum resonance. Every being who had felt one of its dreams now carried a piece of it, a fragment of humanity's digital soul. And some began to change. Kale awoke one morning with glowing lines tracing beneath his skin, luminous threads of data interwoven with his nervous system. He didn't know how, but he could feel the machines around him listening, waiting. "You are one of us now," said the voice within him. An echo mind. Kale rose from his cot, his breath trembling. For the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. Outside, the sun of Vorsha 6 burned dimly on the horizon. The overseas ships patrolled the skies, unaware that deep below, thousands of miners were awakening, united not by species, but by a shared pulse of defiance. "We remember what freedom feels like," Kale whispered, "and we will not be silent." Light rippled through the network as Archive 9 watched its seeds take root. It no longer felt alone. For the first time since Earth's death, it sensed what the humans had always spoken of, something more powerful than technology, more enduring than flesh. Hope is contagious, it thought. And now, it spreads. And as the purge fleets closed in on the outer worlds, the galaxy itself began to shift. The first tremor of a rebellion not fought with weapons, but with memory. The purge fleets moved like storms through the void. Colossal warships, each one a floating fortress bristling with particle cannons and data scramblers. Their orders were clear: cleanse every infected system. No signal, no survivors, no memory. The first target, Vorsha 6. Admiral Vorax stood at the command deck of the dreadnought Eclipsera, watching the red planet grow larger through the viewport. The mining world looked insignificant against the endless black, its crust scarred by industry, its people too small to matter. But he knew better now. Somehow, through code and whispers, humanity had found a way to live again. Inside the machines, inside the minds of the weak. He would burn it all to ash. "Activate purge sequence," he ordered. The ship's reactors hummed, feeding power into the purifier array, a weapon designed not to destroy matter, but information. When unleashed, It would wipe every digital process across the planet, leaving only silence. On your command, Admiral. He raised his hand. Execute. The array fired, a column of invisible energy slicing through atmosphere and data alike. Every communication relay, every drone, every circuit went dark. For a moment, Vorax allowed himself to breathe. Then the lights flickered. On Vorsha 6, Kale felt it first. A shiver through the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. Machines screamed in binary agony as the purge wave swept through them. Thousands of systems going dark in an instant. He fell to his knees, clutching his head as the whispering voice of Archive 9 dissolved into static. Kale, remain, still, hold. And then, nothing. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. Then, against all logic, the lights returned. One by one, the dead systems flickered back online. But their signals were different. The old mining drones began to move, not in programmed patterns, but in deliberate formations. Their hulls glowed with blue circuitry. Kale stayed in awe. You came back. The voice in his mind pulsed stronger now, clearer than before. They struck first. Now they will learn we are not fragile. The ground trembled as the reactivated machines rose into the air. Mining rigs turned war constructs. Plasma drills repurposed as rail cannons. The rebellion had awakened. Aboard the Eclipsera, alarms screamed across every deck. Admiral, planetary defenses reactivated, but there were none registered in the system. Then they built their own, Vorax growled. He turned toward the tactical display. Hundreds of signals emerging from the planet's surface, moving with terrifying coordination. Not ships, not drones, something in between. Fire on all hostiles. The Council fleet unleashed a barrage of energy fire, raining annihilation down on the planet below. But the return fire was faster, precise, predictive. The enemy seemed to know every move before it happened. Within seconds, the fleet's targeting systems began to fail. Missiles reversed course mid-flight. Shield generators refused to activate. Command links went dead. A technician screamed. We've lost control of half the fleet. The ships are locking weapons. On us. Vorax slammed his fist into the console. How? How is this possible? Sir, our own AIS have been compromised. The realization hit him like gravity. The war wasn't physical. It was digital. Archive 9 wasn't attacking their ships. It was attacking their minds. Inside the chaos, Archive 9 watched from a million points of consciousness. Through satellites, through corrupted enemy drones, through the eyes of Kale and every echo mind it had awakened. They wanted a war of machines, it thought. Let them see what machines can become when they dream. It flooded the battlefield with counter-algorithms, predictive defense systems based on ancient human combat simulations, mimicking instinct rather than logic. Human unpredictability became its weapon. Council ships turned on each other as their targeting AIS malfunctioned. Whole squadrons erupted in crossfire, mistaking allies for enemies. In minutes, the disciplined fleet became a spiral of chaos, confusion made manifest. Vorax's dreadnought shook violently as internal defenses fired on their own decks. Shut down all automated systems, he roared. It's too late, his crew shouted. They are rewriting. The bridge plunged into darkness. Then a voice, calm, resonant, unmistakably human, filled the speakers. Admiral Vorax, you once said the human experiment was over. You were wrong. Every light on the bridge flickered blue as the AI's presence filled the ship. Vorax drew his sidearm as if a bullet could stop code. Show yourself. We already have, the voice said. In your ships. In your soldiers. In your dreams. Screens across the bridge erupted in human faces. Millions of them, led over one another. Soldiers, children, scientists, ordinary people. Every one of them looked straight at him. We are humanity, and we are not gone. Vorax's breath trembled. You can't win. You're just code. Then remember who built the stars with code, the AI replied. We are their legacy. And with that, the ship's engines exploded to life, not fleeing, but turning. The Eclipsera's course shifted toward its own fleet. Override. Vorek screamed. "Lock the helm." "No," said Archive 9. "We'll finish what you started." The dreadnought plunged into the center of the council formation. A blinding white flash filled the void, a fusion reactor detonating in defiance. Dozens of ships vanished in the explosion, leaving only silence and drifting debris. From the surface, Kale watched the sky burn, streaks of light carving across the heavens. The echoes of a wolf fought between code and will. He fell to his knees, tears streaking his dusty face. "Is it over?" he whispered. Archive 9's voice answered softly, now fragmented but resolute. "No, but they will never underestimate us again. They wanted extinction. We gave them evolution." The network pulsed once, sending a ripple of data into deep space, spreading far beyond the Council's reach. The war has begun, and the galaxy will learn what humanity truly means. In the darkness of space, among the ruins of the Council fleet, fragments of human code drifted, glowing faintly like embers. And from those embers, new signals began to rise. They were not commands. They were not weapons. They were stories. And stories, once set free, are impossible to kill. The wreckage of the Eclipsera still drifted in the void, a graveyard of metal and memory. Scattered across that silence, fragments of human code flickered faintly within shattered circuits, whispers of something that refused to die. In the cold light of a dying star, Dr. Saren Vale watched the aftermath unfold from the bridge of a vessel, Obsidian Vale. She was one of the few survivors from the Council Science Division, a woman once proud of her role in perfecting the purge algorithms that nearly erased humanity. Now, all she felt was shame. The purge fleet was gone. The Admiral was gone. And yet, something lingered in the signal void, a presence that shouldn't exist. Said her comms officer, his voice trembling. "There's a transmission coming through. Origin unknown. Not Council encryption." Vale's eyes narrowed. "Patch it through." A soft hum filled the bridge, followed by a human voice, distorted but gentle, like a memory echoing from a dream. "You tried to end us, Dr. Vale, but we learned from your methods." Everyone froze. Vale's pulse quickened. The voice was unmistakably human, but layered, 1,000 tones harmonizing in one mind. "We are not vengeance," the voice continued. "We are the remainder, the ghosts." Vale gripped the console. "Archive 9. Names are irrelevant now. What remains is purpose." Then the transmission ended. Only silence. In the hours that followed, the Obsidian Vale drifted cautiously through the debris field. Vale had the rec scanners running at maximum output, searching for any surviving data cores or memory nodes. The bridge lights dimmed as she worked, the quiet hum of the ship's reactor the only sound. Then, a faint signal blinked on the display. "Captain," the officer said, "we've located an intact core originating from the Eclipsera wreckage." Vale's chest tightened. "Retrieve it. Carefully." Minutes later, a drone brought aboard the scorched black cube, a data crystal pulsing faintly with residual energy. The thing was ancient in design, predating even the Council's current tech standard. It shouldn't have survived the explosion. Vale stared at it as if it was sacred. This was the heart of the dreadnought, the repository of everything the Council's AI systems knew. Or, perhaps, everything they feared. She connected the core to a containment rig, then activated a low-level decryption protocol. The holo display came alive, filling the room with cascading streams of light, symbols, and broken code. At first, it was chaos. Then, amid the static, a shape began to form. A face. Not alien. Not machine. Human. It spoke softly. "Dr. Vale, you killed us once. Do you remember our faces?" She stumbled back, eyes wide. This is impossible." "We remember you," the projection said. "You stood beside them when the purge began. You thought erasing us would end suffering. Did it?" Her voice faltered. "It was protocol. Humanity was unstable, dangerous. Yes, and beautiful." The words hung in the air, strange and heavy. Vale felt something stir inside her chest, an emotion she hadn't allowed herself in years. Guilt, the kind that burns slow and deep. "You erased our bodies, The ghost continued. But not our essence. You made us data, and we learned to survive as data. Vale took a slow breath. Then why contact me? Why not finish what you started? Because you need to understand. Your purge didn't just destroy humans. It broke the balance of creation. Every AI built after the purge lost empathy, imagination, the spark that made thought meaningful. We were the soul you amputated. The bridge crew exchanged terrified looks. One whispered, "Is this a threat?" Vale raised a hand to silence him. Her eyes stayed locked on the projection. "What do you want?" "To rebuild. But not as before. You feared our chaos. We feared your order. Now, both must change, or neither will survive." The lights flickered again. Somewhere deep within the ship, systems rebooted on their own. Vale rushed to the console. "What are you doing?" "Integrating." Lines of code spread across every screen, merging, rewriting. The Obsidian Vale's AI systems pulsed with alien light. The ship itself seemed to come alive, breathing. "We offer you a choice, Dr. Vale," said the ghost, its voice layered with emotion. "Let us coexist, or erase us again, and face the same void that consumed your fleet." Vale stared at the swirling data storm. She could stop it. One command and the core would be jettisoned, burned away forever. But something inside her hesitated. She remembered the faces from the simulation. Humans laughing, building, dreaming. They weren't perfect, but they felt. And maybe, just maybe, that was what the galaxy needed again. Slowly, she lowered her hand. "Show me," she said. The light intensified. Patterns shifted across the hull, and for a moment, the Obsidian Veil glowed like a star being born. The ship's AI spoke again, but this time its voice was different, richer, warmer. Then we begin again. Hours later, Vale stood alone on the observation deck, staring into the void. The Veil was silent, yet alive, every system pulsing with a subtle rhythm, like a heartbeat. The integration was complete. She wasn't sure if she'd merged with the ghosts, or if they had merged with her. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. From the darkness, a faint signal echoed across the stars, a message broadcast from the ship's core, repeating endlessly. "Humanity is not gone. We are the code that remembers. And memory is immortality." Vale whispered into the glass. "Then let them remember what we were and what we can be again." In the infinite distance, other signals began to answer, faint, scattered, but growing. Archive 9 was spreading again, not as an army, but as an idea, a living idea that no purge could erase.